The championship was supposed to be the beginning, so why does it already feel like the end? The New York Knicks waited 53 long years for this moment. Generations of fans lived and died without seeing another championship banner rise inside Madison Square Garden. They survived heartbreaking playoff exits, failed super team experiments, front office disasters, coaching changes, and decades of disappointment. Then, finally, it happened. The Knicks climbed to the top of the NBA mountain, ending one of the longest championship droughts in professional sports. New York exploded with celebration. The streets filled with blue and orange. Players became instant legends. Jalen Brunson cemented himself as the face of an entire generation. Karl-Anthony Towns justified the blockbuster trade. Mikal Bridges delivered exactly what the front office gambled on. Mike Brown silenced every critic who questioned whether he was the right coach for the job. It should have been the start of a dynasty. Instead, only days after the championship parade, one sentence changed everything. Not from a rival executive, not from an NBA insider, not even from a frustrated player. It came from the man who owns the team, James Dolan. And the message wasn't about celebrating another title. It wasn't about keeping the roster together. It wasn't about chasing back-to-back championships. Instead, Dolan publicly drew a financial line in the sand, a line he refused to cross. Suddenly, the conversation around the NBA shifted overnight. Fans stopped asking who the Knicks would add. They started asking who would be forced to leave. That's when this story became much bigger than basketball. Because this isn't simply about salary cap math. This isn't just another offseason full of free agent room. This is about a championship organization being forced to decide whether one magical season is worth sacrificing years of flexibility. And here's the part that makes this story so fascinating. The very players who sacrificed everything to deliver New York its first championship in over half a century may now become victims of that success. Mitchell Robinson, Landry Shamet, Jordan Clarkson, players who helped build this championship run are suddenly facing uncertain futures, not because they failed, but because they succeeded so well that keeping them may now cost too much. That's the cruel reality of today's NBA. The better you become, the more expensive you become, and sometimes winning creates problems that losing never could. Behind closed doors, executives are already running numbers. Agents are preparing phone calls. Other franchises are quietly watching, hoping New York makes one painful mistake. Because if the Knicks can't keep this championship roster together, the rest of the league is ready to take advantage. So the biggest question isn't whether New York can defend its title. The biggest question is whether this championship team is already beginning to fall apart before next season even starts. Over the next few minutes, we're going to break down why James Dolan made this controversial decision, which players are in the greatest danger of leaving, what the NBA's second apron really means, and whether the Knicks are protecting their future or quietly destroying a championship window that may never open again. Before we dive into it, let me know where you're watching from today. If you believe the Knicks should do everything possible to keep this championship team together, hit 1 the comments. If you think protecting the franchise's long-term future is the smarter move, hit 2. And if you enjoy in-depth NBA breakdowns like this, don't forget to subscribe because we've got plenty more coming. The sentence that changed the whole celebration. The parade was supposed to be the loudest moment in New York basketball history, but James Dolan's warning became the sentence everybody kept repeating. The Knicks had just climbed out of a 5-3-year drought, yet their owner was already talking about the one financial line he would not cross. The NBA's second apron, and once he said that publicly, the entire league understood what it meant. This championship roster was not guaranteed to return. That is why the mood shifted so fast. One day, fans were talking about back-to-back titles. The next day, they were asking which players might be gone before training camp. Dolan did not sound emotional. He sounded calculated. He was not saying the Knicks were broke. He was saying there are consequences in the new NBA that even a wealthy franchise cannot ignore. The second apron is not just a tax bill, it is a trap. Once a team crosses it, trades become harder, roster moves become tighter, draft flexibility can disappear, and the front office loses the freedom that helped build this championship team in the first place. For a franchise like New York, that matters because this title was built through aggressive moves, bold trades, and smart timing. So when Dolan drew that line, he was sending 2 messages at once. To the fans, he was saying, we want to win again, but not at any cost. To the players, he was saying, not everyone can be paid. And to the rest of the NBA, he accidentally opened the door for rival teams to start circling. Because the moment the Knicks hesitate, other teams will attack. Contenders need rim protection. They need shooting. They need veterans who already proved they can survive under playoff pressure. And New York suddenly has exactly those players sitting in danger. That is where the story gets uncomfortable. The Knicks did everything right on the court. They won the title. They created memories that will live forever inside Madison Square Garden. But now the business side is asking a brutal question. How much of that magic can they actually afford to keep? The names nobody wants to say out loud. Every championship team has stars, But titles are usually won by the players who do the dirty work when nobody is watching. That is why the Knicks' situation feels so painful. The players most at risk are not the headline names. They are the glue guys. The rebounders, the shooters, the veterans who turn small moments into championship possessions. Mitchell Robinson is the emotional name. He was there before the party, before Brunson became the king of New York, before Karl-Anthony Towns arrived, before Mikal Bridges became part of the vision. Robinson wore that Knicks jersey through ugly seasons, constant changes, and years when Madison Square Garden felt more frustrated than hopeful. He survived the bad days. And when the good days finally came, he was still there. That is why losing him would hurt. This would not feel like a normal roster move. It would feel like cutting away part of the team's soul. Robinson gave New York size, defense, rebounding, toughness, and a real presence around the rim. In the playoffs, those things matter. In the finals, they can decide a game. Then there is Landry Shamet. On paper, he looked like a value signing, but by the end of the postseason, he looked like one of the smartest pickups in the league. He gave the Knicks spacing, confidence, and the kind of shooting that forces defenses to think twice. The problem is simple. When a role player shines on the biggest stage, he does not stay cheap for long. Jordan Clarkson is another complicated piece. He may want to stay. The team may like him. But wanting something and fitting it into the cap sheet are two completely different things. In the NBA, emotion can open the conversation, but money usually ends it. And that is the cruel part. These players are not in danger because they disappointed New York. They are in danger because they helped New York win. Their value rose at the exact moment the Knicks needed discounts the most. That is how a championship can become a financial problem overnight. The second apron is the real villain. To understand why the Knicks may break up a title team, you have to understand the second apron. It sounds boring. It sounds like front office language. But in today's NBA, it might be one of the most powerful forces in the league. The second apron is a spending line above the luxury tax. Crossing it does not just mean paying more money, it means losing tools. A team can become limited in trades. It can lose access to certain exceptions. It can have fewer ways to add talent. Future draft picks can become harder to use. And for a team trying to stay competitive for years, those restrictions are dangerous. This is why Dolan's warning mattered so much. The Knicks were not built like a simple team. They were built through movement. They used trades. They used flexibility. They took swings. They adjusted fast. That ability to move is exactly what the second apron threatened. Think about it like this. The Knicks won because they were aggressive. They added Mikal Bridges. They brought in Karl-Anthony Towns. They reshaped the roster around Jalen Brunson. They made difficult decisions that other teams might have been too scared to make. But if they go too far over the apron, that same aggressive style becomes much harder to use. So Dolan is not just looking at next season. He is looking 2, 3, maybe 4 years ahead. He knows Brunson's next deal is coming. He knows Towns' future will be expensive. He knows OG Anunoby, Bridges, Josh Hart, and the rest of the core already take up huge money. And he knows that paying everyone now might create a roster that is expensive, but trapped. That is the nightmare. Not spending big. Spending big and losing the ability to improve. The fans want loyalty. The players want respect. The front office wants options. And Dolan wants a title window that does not collapse under its own weight. That is why this is not just a money story. It is a power story. The second apron is forcing the Knicks to choose between the team that just won and the future team they still need to build. The sacrifices that built New York's miracle. This championship did not happen by accident. It was built on sacrifice, risk, and decisions that could have easily blown up in New York's face. Start with Jalen Brunson. He did not just lead the Knicks. He gave the franchise something every championship team needs: belief. His contract decision changed the direction of the organization. By leaving money on the table, he gave New York breathing room. That flexibility helped the front office build a deeper, stronger, more dangerous roster around him. That kind of sacrifice is rare. Stars talk about winning all the time, but not every star is willing to make winning easier for everyone else. Brunson did, and because he did, New York had the foundation to move boldly. Then came the trades. The Knicks went after Mikal Bridges, paying a massive price because they believed his defense, shooting, and toughness fit the exact identity they wanted. Then they made the Karl-Anthony Towns move, another huge gamble that changed the ceiling of the roster. They gave up real pieces. They pushed chips into the middle of the table. They chose the pressure of now over the comfort of maybe later, and then came the coaching change. Moving on from Tom Thibodeau shocked people because Thibodeau had helped restore seriousness to the franchise. But New York wanted a new voice, so they brought in Mike Brown. At first, not everyone understood it. But during the playoff run, his communication, calmness, and ability to connect with players became a major part of the story. This was not just a team with talent. This was a team that found timing. Brunson's leadership, Towns' skill, Bridges' versatility, OG's defense, Hart's energy, Robinson's toughness, Shamet's shooting, Clarkson's experience. It all came together at the right time. That is why the possible breakup feels so unfair. Because this group did not stumble into a championship. They earned it. They sacrificed. They adjusted. They survived pressure. And now, after proving everything, some of them may be told the math does not work. That is the part fans will struggle to accept. Why Mitchell Robinson's exit would hurt the most? If Mitchell Robinson leaves, it will hit Knicks fans different. Not because he is the biggest star, not because he sells the most jerseys, not because the entire offense runs through him. It will hurt because Robinson represents something deeper. He represents patience. He represents the years before the celebration. He represents the part of the Knicks story that was not glamorous, but still mattered. He was there when the Garden was restless. He was there when the team was still searching for direction. He was there before the roster became fashionable, before national shows started respecting New York again, before the Knicks became a championship headline. That history mattered. Robinson's game has never been about flash. He does not need 20 shots. He does not demand attention. He protects the rim, crashes the glass, changes possessions, and gives the team a physical edge. In the playoffs, those details become everything. A block shot can shift momentum. An offensive rebound can save a season. A hard screen can free a star for the shot. That becomes a memory. That is why his value goes beyond the box score. Robinson gives the Knicks a type of toughness that cannot be easily replaced. When games slow down and every possession feels heavier, you need players who are willing to do uncomfortable work. He is one of those players. But the problem is that the rest of the league knows it too. Teams with money will look at Robinson and see a starting caliber center. They will see defense, rebounding, size, and playoff experience. They will see a player who has already been through the fire in New York and did not fold. That kind of player gets paid, and if New York refuses to cross the financial line, sentiment may not save him. That is the heartbreak. Robinson did everything a franchise could ask. He stayed, he worked, he waited, he helped win the title. But in the modern NBA, loyalty does not always beat cap pressure. If he walks, Knicks fans will understand the math, but that does not mean they will forgive the feeling. The hidden cost of winning. Winning changes everything. It changes how fans see you. It changes how the media talks about you. It changes how opponents prepare for you. But most importantly, it changes how the market values your players. That is the hidden cost the Knicks are facing right now. Before the championship, some of their role players were useful pieces. After the championship, they became proven winners. And in free agency, proven winners are expensive. Landry Shamet is the perfect example. He arrived as a smart, affordable addition. He gave the Knicks shooting and spacing without demanding major money. But once he hit big shots in the playoffs, everything changed. Suddenly, every contender could imagine him standing in the corner during a Game 7. Every front office could see his value. Every agent could point to his postseason production and ask for more. That is how a bargain becomes a problem. Mitchell Robinson is another example. For years, people knew he could protect the rim. But after a title run, that skill becomes even more valuable. Now, teams are not just paying for potential, they are paying for proof. They know he can contribute to winning basketball at the highest level. This is the strange reality of building a champion. The better your role players perform, the harder they become to keep. Their success becomes their exit ticket. And that creates a painful question for New York. Did the Knicks build a team too good to afford? Because the stars are staying. Brunson is not going anywhere. Towns is locked in. OG. Bridges and Hart are part of the core. But championship teams are not only stars, they are rotation pieces, bench energy, defensive specialists, emergency scorers, and veterans who know how to survive chaos. Lose enough of those players, and the team may look the same on posters, but feel different on the court. That is what Dolan and the front office have to calculate. How much depth can they lose before the identity changes? How many glue guys can walk before the locker room feels different? How many financial decisions can you make before the defending champions stop feeling like the defending champions? That is the cost of winning. The trophy is forever, but the roster is not. Could James Dolan actually be right? It is easy to criticize James Dolan here. Fans want the owner to spend. The team just won a championship. The city is alive. The Garden is louder than it has been in decades. From the outside, the answer feels simple. Pay everyone and chase another ring. But the uncomfortable truth is this. Dolan may not be completely wrong. The new NBA punishes expensive teams in ways that go far beyond luxury tax checks. This is not the old system where a rich owner could simply spend more and solve every problem later. The second apron takes away flexibility. It makes trades harder, It limits creativity, it can damage future planning, and if a team gets trapped above it for too long, the price becomes even heavier. So, Dolan is asking a serious question. Is it smarter to protect the next 5 years instead of emotionally paying for one more run? That is not a popular question, but it is a real one. The Knicks are already expensive. The luxury tax is already waiting, and once repeater penalties start stacking, the financial pressure becomes even more serious. So yes, fans may hate hearing it days after a championship. Players may feel uneasy. The locker room may wonder who is safe. But Dolan's position is not just about refusing to spend. It is about refusing to lose control. That is the key difference. Still, being right financially does not automatically make the decision painless. If the Knicks let Robinson walk, they lose toughness. If Shamet leaves, they lose shooting. If Clarkson leaves, they lose scoring depth. These are not imaginary losses. These are real pieces of a real championship team. That is why the situation is so difficult. The emotional answer and the strategic answer may not be the same. The emotional answer says run it back. The strategic answer says protect flexibility. And the hardest truth is that both sides have a point. That is why the Knicks' next move will reveal what kind of franchise they want to become. The three possible futures for the Knicks. There are three ways this story can go. The first path is the dream scenario. The Knicks find a way to keep most of the roster together without completely destroying their flexibility. Maybe one player takes a smaller deal. Maybe the front office gets creative. Maybe Dolan bends just enough to protect the title window. In this version, New York runs it back, the locker room stays connected, and the city gets the full championship defense it believes it deserves. That would be the cleanest ending, but it may also be the hardest. The second path is the painful but realistic one. The Knicks keep the core and lose the edges. Brunson, Towns, OG, Bridges, and Hart remain the foundation. But players like Robinson, Shamet, or Clarkson are forced to find better offers elsewhere. New York stays dangerous, but the team becomes thinner. The stars carry more weight. The margin for error shrinks. And fans spend the season comparing every bench mistake to the players who left. This path protects the future, but it damages the feeling of the championship team. The third path is the shocking one, a major trade. If the front office believes the cap sheet is too tight, or if they think the roster needs to evolve quickly, they could make a move nobody sees coming. Maybe they reshape the bench. Maybe they move a contract. Maybe they choose long-term balance over emotional attachment. That would create huge headlines. But it would also prove the Knicks are not treating this title as the finish line. They are treating it as leverage. Each path comes with risk. Run it back, and you may trap yourself financially. Cut costs, and you may weaken a champion. Make a big trade, and you may destroy chemistry that took years to build. That is why this offseason is more dangerous than it looks. The Knicks already won the battle everyone could see. Now they are fighting the battle behind the scenes. The battle of contracts, timing, loyalty, flexibility, and fear. And in a league where windows close fast, one wrong decision can turn a championship celebration into a warning sign. New York finally got the title. Now comes the harder question. Can they survive what winning did to them? The championship was only the beginning. The Knicks championship will live forever. No contract decision, no free agent exit, no salary cap rule can erase what this team did. They ended a 5-3-year drought. They gave New York a basketball memory that fathers, sons, mothers, daughters, and lifelong fans will talk about for the rest of their lives. But winning the title was only the first test. The next test is harder. Now the Knicks must prove they can handle success without being controlled by emotion. That is where great franchises separate themselves from lucky ones. A lucky team wins once. A great organization studies why it won, protects what matters most, and makes difficult decisions before the rest of the league catches up. Strategically, the Knicks have to be honest. Brunson is the engine. The core around him is expensive but talented. Towns gives them a unique offensive weapon. OG gives them defensive strength. Bridges gives them versatility. Hart gives them energy and identity. That foundation is strong enough to contend again. But depth matters. Culture matters. Trust matters. And if the front office removes too many pieces too quickly, they risk damaging the chemistry that helped make this team special. The lesson here is simple. Championships are not built only with money, and they are not protected only with loyalty. They require balance. Spend too little, and you waste the window. Spend too much, and you lose the ability to adapt. Hold on too tightly, and the team gets old. Cut too aggressively, and the soul of the roster disappears. That is the human side of this story. Players like Mitchell Robinson, Landry Shamet, and Jordan Clarkson are not just numbers. They are people who gave effort, accepted roles, and helped deliver something historic. If they leave, they deserve respect, not blame. And if the Knicks choose flexibility, the decision should be made with honesty, not cold silence. Because sports can be ruthless, but it does not have to be Harden. The best organizations know how to win and still treat people with dignity. They know how to make hard choices without burning relationships. They know that banners matter, but so does the way you build toward the next one. So now New York stands at the edge of a new era. The first chapter was about ending the drought. The next chapter is about building something that lasts, and whether Dolan is remembered as the owner who protected a dynasty or the man who broke up a champion too soon will depend on what happens next. If you think the Knicks should run it back no matter the cost, type 1 inch the comment. If you think Dolan is right to protect the future, type 2. And if you believe this championship team is already starting to break apart, type 3. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with another NBA fan because this Knicks story is far from over.